Welcome to the City of Oxnard Planning Commission. This is our regular meeting of October 17, 2019, now called to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Chair Frank.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here.
Vice Chair Chua.
Here.
Commissioner Fewring.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll now do the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Chua.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to item C on our agenda, public comments. These are public comments on items that are not on our agenda this evening. I have one speaker card. If you want to speak during public comment, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to our commission secretary so she can bring it to me so I can call your name. Maria, do you have any additional? I have one. These are for the other one. All right, no problem. Let me inquire, Nancy Ron, what do you want to speak about? Okay, let me write it in. Let me write it in. Okay, thank you very much. All right, I have one speaker card, Michael Sujati. Your J looks like a T. Okay, welcome.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Sujati, and I own and operate Grace Living, a 6-bed residential care facility for the elderly here in Oxnard, or RCFE, with my wife Ivy. And at the encouragement of many of our community members, fellow industry colleagues, as well as our local ombudsman, we have been trying to explore how we could expand our services to serve more individuals in our community, as the need for quality care for elderly has rapidly grown in the past few years. After considerable research, it seems there is some question as to the appropriate process to take to undergo our expansion. The current code provides for RCFEs to serve 1 to 6 beds, as well as a CUP process for 16 beds and over. However, unfortunately, there's no explicit code to dedicated for RCFEs looking to serve 7 to 15 residents in R1 zone properties. However, there is within Division 2, Section 16-22, letter E, there is the code does provide for special use permits for congregate living health facilities that are looking to serve 7 to 15 beds within an R1 zone property. Given that these are medical facilities that pose more of a drastic difference in both use case and oftentimes footprint, believe that an interpretation could reasonably be made for RCFEs to serve 7 to 15 beds within an R1 zone property as well. This is especially true given that the primary purpose of an RCFE, or residential care facility, is to provide assisted living services within a residential setting, which is typically an R1 zone property. When my wife and I got married over 11 years ago and started Grace Living a few years later, we had no intent really on serving our community in this way. However, through the years, we've really obtained a tremendous amount of purpose and meaning in serving our residents and our community surrounding us. Now, we clearly understand that it's going to take a coordinated effort on the part of the City of Oxnard, medically based facilities and skilled nursing facilities, large assisted living facilities, but more importantly, it's going to take small and medium-sized businesses like Grace Living to really address and serve the needs of a growing demand for quality care for our elderly community. So with that, just thank you for your consideration and your time, and look forward to working with everyone on being able to better serve our elderly community here in Oxnard. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. I have no other cards for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to make comment before the Planning Commission on items not on the agenda? Seeing no one, I'll close public comments. We'll move to the consent agenda. This approval of our minutes from our September 19, 2019 meeting. All commissioners were present at that meeting who were here. So do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
We have a motion by Chavez, second by Chua. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No. Okay, moving to item E1 is a continued public hearing. It's the 7-Eleven project, planning and zoning permit PZ number 18-500-12, special use permit. Our planner is Veronica Ortiz de Anda, and before we start, may I inquire of my commissioners on either E1 or F1, do we have any ex parte communications?
No. I have none.
I have none.
Okay, no ex parte on either. Please proceed.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Chua, and members of the Planning Commission. As you may recall, at the meeting of September 19th, the Commission considered the project 18-500-12, a request for a special use permit for a convenience store, specifically for 7-Eleven, proposed at 2900 Saviors Road. I'd like to let the Commission know that there was additional public comment that was received on this project just yesterday afternoon, and the Commission was provided a copy of these comments. The first one is a letter, and the subsequent pages are copies of the petition that is similar to the one that was provided in the staff report. As the Commission may recall, the original request was to demolish an existing 4-story office building and construct a 3,000 square foot 1-story convenience store that would operate 24 hours a day with a gas fuel station, along with new parking and landscaping improvements. The request also involved that the proposed business be allowed to sell beer and wine for off-site consumption during the hours of 7 in the morning to midnight. And it also involved 2 street dedications, one along Channel Islands Boulevard of 1.35 feet wide and one along Saviors Road of 3.5 feet wide. Staff presented the project and heard public testimony, deliberated on the project, and made a motion to deny the project. At that time, there was not a resolution available for denial. Staff's original recommendation was for approval. The resolution for denial is now available and been provided to the Commission. There are 2 findings specifically which the Commission was unable to make, and that was finding number 1 from section 16-531A, reading the nature, condition, and development of adjacent uses, buildings, and structures shall be considered, and no proposed special use permit shall be granted if the approval body finds such use will adversely affect or be materially detrimental to such adjacent uses, buildings, or structures, or to the public health, safety, and general welfare. Due to the undue concentration of alcohol outlets in the immediate area, the high crime rate in the neighborhood, the continuous problems of vagrancy at the existing store seeking to relocate to the project site, and potentially significant historic resource located on the project site, the Commission was unable to make this finding. The other finding that the Commission was unable to make was, was able to make is relates to City Council Resolution 11896. The finding specifically reads, the proposed use is likely to create or significantly aggravate police problems within 1,000 feet of the location for which the special use permit is applied. This finding was made due to the project location being at the corner of a major street intersection, which could expect more patrons due to more merchandise choices, including gas. These patrons include the homeless who loiter and consume alcohol they purchase outside the store in public. The project also provided a larger facility in a more prominent location than the existing store seeking to relocate. The business owner's inability to control and manage the existing problems at the existing store gave reason to believe that these problems would not improve at the project location, and therefore the project was likely to aggravate police problems within 1,000 feet of the project location. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions of staff? No? No, I have no questions. I have open public comment. Yaderi Salazar, please come forward and speak. And then we'll have Pat Brown. Hi.
Hello, good evening. My name is Yaderi. So once again, this is in regards to, as we are moving forward with, hopefully, the denial. I have a few statistics, especially for the zip code 93033, where this project, the proposed project is still decided. So real quick, so the income in regards to individuals that live in this area, and this is from vcmatters.org. So it's reputable information. So income is between $50,000 to about $75,000. Now, in regards to, for instance, when it comes to education, when I mentioned last time, why not bring, I actually did not mention, but would like to mention today, a vocational training center where our youth or our population is getting educated instead of having to place something that's not gonna, at this point, benefit our community. With that said, it's because, for instance, we have such a high rate of high school grads, as well as individuals with less than 9th grade education, and with a little percentage of bachelor's, master's, nonetheless a PhD. Also, I wanted to go ahead and mention in regards to the pediatric asthma rates. As I mentioned, my child has been diagnosed with asthma. Once again, zip code 93033. This is in regards to the age-adjusted ER visits within children under the age of 18. It's about 37.4%. When it comes to about 10,000 people, nonetheless, in our city, we have about 84,000. We are moving more towards the era of either hybrid or electrical vehicles, so hopefully, one, that would be another issue or concern. Why deny this project? So going back to either vocational skills, there are high-end professions that will benefit the city in regards to bringing those individuals that are coming out of that training with skills that they can eventually get employed and still at the end bring income to our city. Why have to bring something, once again, that is only being detrimental to our community, my children, and my fellow individuals that are opposing this project? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pat Brown?
For a number of years, I was on the alcoholic beverage involvement with the RAPAC, we call it Responsible Alcohol Policy Action Coalition. And we would go out to all of the businesses where they were requesting alcohol, and we'd check them all out, and whether it was on sale on site or used on site or just taken and used at home or somewhere else. I watched the meeting intently last time and listened to all of the questions that you all had, and knowing what the answers were in advance myself, I just felt that there was just no way that this could go. I mean, there's just too many strikes against this at this location. It's just way over over the top. And there's liquor stores all around the area and places where you can buy all the liquor you want. And so, and all the specialized ones too, because I've gone into several getting very specialized stuff that you don't normally see around, and they have it. And so I would just say that this is not the location for that business. There's probably another location somewhere, but not at that particular location, okay?
Great.
And the fact that there is such an overconcentration already of the alcohol problems related to alcohol, I just feel that this is just asking for more trouble. Why would you do that? That would not be reasonable. So, just my opinion.
Okay, I have a
Thank
question.
you.
Pat, I have a question. Ms. Brown? I have a question about your speaker card. You checked the box that said you're against denying the project.
No,
So
I'm
you want
for
me-
denying the
You want me
project.
to change your?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes. It's not that that project
No, no,
wouldn't work,
I
but just not in that location.
I understand. I just want to make sure your speaker
Yeah.
card accurately reflects your
Yes.
position here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to, see, because just for the public's awareness, we're here to deny the project. We're here to approve the resolution denying the project. We voted on the project at the last meeting, and now they're bringing the written resolution to us so we can see what it says, and now we're going to vote on that resolution. So if we vote yes, we're voting to approve the resolution to deny the project. Okay? It's kind of a little backwards, but just so everyone understands. So now I have John, cannot read the last name, starts with an H, here to speak on item E1. Thank you very much. What is your, I know I've asked you before.
This time I did not write it in hieroglyphics, I thought. That would be
I got the H-U-Y.
Hotel Uniform Yankee Charlie Kilo Echo.
Okay, hunky.
Hike.
Okay. You'll remind me next time.
I concur with the approval of the denial.
Then I'm
And-
going, yes, that's what you marked.
Right. And South Oxnard, instead of being a concentration of liquor stores, fast food outlets, junk food, with intelligent and inspirational planning, we can do much better. And a school, some sort of vocational school for that building seems like one good possibility. The idea of downtown Oxnard is to have multiple story, to a certain extent, multi-use buildings. And the same could be done along Saviors Road. So instead of demolishing an existing four-story building and starting over for one story with fossil fuels and other antiquated ideas, we can move forward.
Thank you. Nancy Ron. Hi.
Hi, we're here to thank the commission for denying the project that they wanted. There's other places that they can go, such as Fresh and Easy's old store on Rose and Channel Islands. But we're in great thanks to you guys for helping us with our support that we tried to do. We don't need any more liquor stores. We're already having a bunch of problems now with the ones we have. So thank you again for denying it.
Well, thanks for coming and participating in your city government. I have no other speaker cards. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on item E1, which is this project? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment. Commissioners, what's your pleasure? You have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move.
Motion by Chavez. Second. Second by Furing. Roll call.
Before we vote, can we just be clear for the record that
Yes.
that this is for the approval of the resolution that's included in the packet?
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fuhring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chua,
Yes.
Chair Frank?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving to item F1. This is named the Romero Duplex. It's planning and zoning permit number 17-500-14. It's a special use permit. It's a request to get a special use permit to approve and establish a planned residential group. Our planner is Jay Dobrolowski. I did good? I'm doing my best. All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Is this on? Thank you, Chair. Hello, can you hear me? Is this better?
That's better.
Okay. Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. The item before you is a special use permit known as permit number 17-500-14. The request is for an approval to establish a planned residential group, known as a PRG, for the adaptive reuse of an industrial building into a residential duplex with a carport. The project includes 8 deviations to the development standards of the R2 zoning district, and those are as follows. 1, an increase in density. 2, a reduction of the interior yard space. 3, a reduction in the front yard setback. 4, a reduction in the side yard setback. 5, an increase in height of the front yard fence. 6, relief from resident off-street parking. 7, relief from the required visitor parking. And 8, relief from landscaping. The project site is located on the corner of East 1st Street and Harrison Avenue in the La Colonia neighborhood. That is in central Oxnard. The 2030 general plan designation for the site is residential low-medium, and the zoning designation for the site is multiple family, that's R2. The project is consistent with both the general plan and the zoning code. The site is located on the corner. There is an existing curb cut off of East 1st Street, and the site has access from the alleyway adjacent to the site. The site is largely surrounded by residential uses. Across East 1st Street is a bar, and to the west of the site is a vacant lot and also the Ventura County Rescue Mission thrift store. This is a view from East 1st Street looking south at the site. This is the view from Harrison Avenue looking east at the site. A little background about the site now. In 1989, the Planning Commission approved Special Use Permit 1356 for the construction of the existing industrial building. At that time, the site was zoned light manufacturing, that's M1. To date, no changes have been made to the building. In 2000, the M1 zoning was not consistent with the 2020 general plan. Thus, the zoning was changed from M1 to R2. The current R2 zoning is consistent with the 2030 general plan. These are the proposed elevations of the project. The top is the north elevation from East 1st Street, and the bottom is the south elevation, which is adjacent to a residential property. Oh, okay. These are the elevations from the east, that's from the alley looking at the site, and also from the west, that's on Harrison Avenue looking at the site. The proposed planned residential group requires that your commission make 4 additional findings. That's in addition to the regular findings to grant the SUP. Those 4 findings are as follows. 1, a substantial improvement of the use of the land will thereby be affected, and there will not be any detrimental effect upon the surrounding area. 2, the residential use proposed is permitted within the zone. 3, the building will substantially conform with plot plans and elevations submitted in support of the special use permit. And 4, the applicant has demonstrated that population densities proposed are in conformance with existing and proposed public facilities, such as streets, sewers, water, schools, and parks. The proposed project meets these findings. However, that decision is yours. The first deviation that is requested by this PRG permit is an increase in density. The zoning code requires 3,500 square feet per lot area of dwelling unit. The proposed project includes 2,055 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. The existing legal lot is 4,110 square feet. The lot size would not allow more than 1 dwelling unit on the lot. This is a diagram showing the project site. The orange outline shows the footprint of the proposed 2 dwelling units. Do we have the pointer? The entrance is located off of East 1st Street, right in between the 2 dwelling units. The second deviation requested is for a reduction of interior yard space. The code requires 30% of lot area with a minimum dimension of 15 by 15 feet. The proposed project will include 18.5% of the lot area with only a 10-foot minimum dimension. The existing industrial building was designed to maximize lot coverage. The structure is existing, and the current project is the adaptive reuse of the existing structure. This is a diagram showing the interior yard space. The green area outlines the proposed space. Note that the area is not consistent with the minimum 15 by 15 foot dimension. The third and fourth deviations requested are for the reduction in the front yard setback and a reduction in the side yard setback. The code requires 25 feet for a front yard setback. The project will have a 9-foot and 8-inch front yard setback. It will also have a 0 lot line setback on the south side. Again, the industrial building was built on the property line. It is existing legal nonconforming, and the proposed project is the reuse of the existing building. This is a diagram showing the proposed setbacks of the building. The front 10-foot setback is on the left side of the diagram, and the 0 lot line setback is on the bottom of the diagram. The 5th deviation requested is for an increase in the height of a front yard fence. The code allows a 42-inch maximum front yard fence. The proposed project has a 6-foot high chain link fence that is located along the south side of the project. The structure is existing, and again, the proposed project is simply the reuse of the existing site. The fence was originally constructed to separate the residential use from the industrial use. This is a photo from Harrison Avenue highlighting the chain link fence. The 6th and 7th deviations requested are for relief from parking. The code requires 4 garage spaces for these 2 dwelling units. The project proposes 3 carport spaces and 1 uncovered space. The code also requires 2 off-street spaces for the 2 units. The proposed project includes 0 off-street spaces. The lot is 40 feet wide, and parking is available on the street. Again, the structure is existing, and given its current configuration, parking is difficult on the lot. This is a diagram showing the proposed parking area. The carport would cover 3 of the 4 spaces. Those are proposed on the eastern side of the site. The final deviation requested is for relief from landscaping. The code requires a 10-foot landscaping section along the parking area adjacent to the street. The proposed project will include a 1-foot, 10-inch landscaping section along the parking area. The lot is only 40 feet wide, and the proposed parking area requires all of the land for parking. This is a diagram showing the landscaping area. The proposed landscaping is located in the top right corner of the lot. At this time, I'd like to draw your attention to some selected conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 37 requires that exterior lights shall operate from dusk to dawn. Condition number 40 requires that the proposed bougainvillea plants be replaced with a shrub that has less defensive characteristics. Condition of approval number 85 requires that the building comply with the California Building Code. The applicant has agreed to all of these conditions of approval. The proposed project is the conversion of an existing structure. It does not trigger any thresholds in the city's CEQA guidelines or any exceptions to the exemptions. Therefore, the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15303B. The project site is located within the La Colonia neighborhood. Thus, notice was sent to the entire neighborhood regarding a community workshop that was held on April 15th earlier this year. At that workshop, staff received no public comment regarding this project. Thus, staff recommends that your Planning Commission approve the project as submitted, finding the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review, and approve the resolution for Planning and Zoning Permit number 17514, subject to certain findings and conditions. That concludes staff presentation. At this time, we're available for questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, question of staff? Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For question staff, is the applicant going to be giving a presentation also?
Is the applicant going to give a presentation? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not even going to try to say your last name because I will butcher it, but thank you for the presentation. There was a few things that concerned me about this project. On that first slide, bullet point number 6, where it says relief from resident off-street parking.
I don't think your mics are on.
Mine is on.
Yours is on, but I don't
How
think
much?
yours are on.
Can you hear me?
Thanks. Speak up.
So number 6, it talks about relief from resident off-street parking. And page 7 of the staff report, the applicant pretty much says that the current situation, let me go to that real quick. It says that currently the property is underutilized and inappropriate as a commercial use due to the residential nature of the neighborhood. The existing commercial uses produces increased traffic and parking generation. A residential use is more appropriate and will be less traffic generation and more compatible with the surrounding residential uses. So my question is, why are they trying to seek relief from off-site parking if they're ultimately admitting that it's not going to be an issue?
I think they're talking about traffic, not parking. It's a commercial use, so maybe, you know.
Chair Frank, Chair Frank and Commissioner Chavez, that's exactly the situation. We're talking about things that are involving vehicles both ways, but they're two different subjects. Their contention is that commercial uses have a higher generation of traffic, and the standard that they're asking relief from is a parking standard for visitors, in effect.
Okay, I get that, and I understand with the off-street parking, but again, on page 7 of the staff, it says that because it's commercial, it creates more traffic and impacts an increase in parking, but that a residential would not increase the parking problem. Am I reading that wrong?
I think, Commissioner Chavez, I think what this is basically trying to say that it's supporting the reduction in parking they're requesting by saying that the reduction by parking is warranted because the current situation has a higher parking demand and traffic generation than the proposed residential. So it's basically trying to support their request for reduced parking by saying that it's going to be better overall for the neighborhood than it would be used as a commercial business in its current configuration.
Okay. Is this applicant required to make any improvements as far as the alleyway goes?
Commissioner Chavez, no improvements in the alleyway are proposed, nor required by the conditions of approval.
Okay. I drove by that alley, and man, that's really tight, and it has really deep potholes in that area. Now, according to, God, I don't even know what numbers these slides are.
Yeah, that does, just as a comment to staff, I agree with Commissioner Chavez. Very difficult to reference where we want you to go when the PowerPoint is not numbered. Very difficult.
So the one where it shows the existing site, it has an aerial view of the site outlined in green. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4th, maybe the 4th slide. It shows that there's a small structure at the edge in the corner. That small structure on the corner, what is that?
Trash enclosure.
And is that still going to continue to be there?
No, it will be demolished.
Okay. So I guess my next question is, in regards to the site plan, it shows that it's only 3 spaces that are going to have a covered carport. Why not all 4 of them if that trash enclosure is being demolished?
Commissioner Chavez, A 4-car carport would require a wall along the property line between the project site and the adjacent residential lot, and therefore would prevent visibility for the southernmost car from backing out.
Okay. Now, I question, because our last meeting, we had a residential project brought to us, and they were talking about storage space, and that storage space was going into the garage. What is the requirement for these types of projects as far as resident storage? How much needs to be available, and where does it actually have to be at?
Commissioner Chavez, the code requires 225 square feet of storage space, and that can be located anywhere within the unit.
Okay, so it's in the unit.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That would be all for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Fearing?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Is this typical of adaptive reuse projects? Are there other examples that have been done before where I haven't seen so many deviations before in a project like this? So is this kind of like the typical modus operandi of doing adaptive reuse here in Oxnard?
Chair Fearing and members of the Planning Commission, adaptive reuse by its nature can do this, and every single situation is different, is what I would say, depending on what exactly is out there. This one is peculiar because we have a industrial building that had been legally permitted when the zones were allowing that. What we have today is someone could potentially come in here without coming before the Planning Commission and try to reuse this entire structure as a single-family home. But when we introduce the R2 zone, if you will, the duplex use, additional parking requirements are introduced. And the main driver that we're seeing today is the parking regulations. The introduction of a 4-car garage on the site and the off-street parking that a duplex would require is probably the biggest challenge that we're talking about today. The rest of the modifications to the structure and the landscaping issues are something that we would say would be legal nonconforming. And as a single-family home, theoretically, all that would be needed would be a building permit to move to make some modifications to the structure. But the introduction of the duplex unit is really what's triggering some of these differences, if you will.
So we don't have anything prior is the answer.
We don't have anything prior?
Well, that was his question.
Yeah.
Do we have any precedent? Is this how Oxnard is processing these applications?
I would say that for adaptive reuse, every single, this could have occurred on other properties. I don't have that history with the city to share that. But adaptive reuse typically does have some level of nonconformity or legal nonconforming situation with the existing code as we're trying to introduce a new use onto a property.
Yeah, I guess what I was getting at is there another example of this that was done, and what were the ramifications of that? So did we see some issues with parking, for example?
We did an adaptive reuse of the Oxnard Press Courier building and converting it to senior housing over on 9th Street, isn't it? Yeah, but I don't think there were these many deviations. They altered the parking on the street and did a lot of things like that. It might be interesting little study for you to take a look at that, because that was the biggest one that I can think of.
Yeah, I would echo what Planning Manager Colwood said, is these are on a case-by-case basis. They're very unusual. It's hard to replicate them because each site is different. But if you noticed in Jay's presentation, most of our comments on each of those variances was to say it's adaptive reuse. So that's sort of that's been our way of reviewing this application is you got an existing building. It's nice to try to preserve existing buildings, not demolish them and rebuild. That creates a lot of constraints on the site. That drove the staff's analysis to say, in this case, we think it works, but it is unusual to have 8 on one application. That's not a common thing, I don't think.
What was, it was light manufacturing. What was the original purpose of the building? Or who occupied it?
Concrete and later carpeting were the underlying uses that were in this building.
Okay. Were there any other uses proposed other than the 2 units?
Good question.
Commissioner Fearing, the proposed project is for the two-unit duplex.
Right.
And that was the original application that was submitted to us.
So there were no other proposals for this building, just
That's correct.
that one? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chua, Vice Chair Chua.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski, for the presentation. I have a few questions, so I need you to bear with me. On the land use and zoning map, you mentioned that the project is consistent with the zoning code. Could you explain to me why it's consistent with the zoning code?
Commissioner Chua, that's outlined in the staff report.
Yeah, because when you say consistent with the zoning code, would that also consistent with the zoning standards contained in the municipal code?
Yes, the zoning code allows deviations with the granting of a PRG. Yes.
Okay, so that leads to my next question. Could you please explain to me or to us the purpose and intent of a PRG?
The planned residential group code section allows the variation of density, area, yards, height, parking, and fencing requirements of the zone when such action is in accordance with the basic principles and intent of the city code, and your commission can make the 4 additional findings.
So basic intent and principles of the municipal code. Okay. Okay, so for city standard, what's the minimum backup space?
Commissioner Chua, the city code requires 25 feet to back out of a parking space.
So reading I was looking at the site plan, and it doesn't seem to have enough backup space. Are they requesting a reduced backup space as well?
Commissioner Chua, let me clarify my previous comment. The former special use permit required included a zone variance to permit backing out into the alleyway. At that time, the property was zoned M1, and backing out into an alleyway from an industrial property was prohibited. The current code allows backing into an alley from a residential property.
Right, but I understand that part, but we're talking about the minimum dimensions for backup space. Minimum dimension you mentioned was 25 feet, right?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
And that alley is not even 25 feet in width.
The alleyway is 14 feet wide.
14 feet.
The parking would be located approximately 5 feet beyond the property line and even further.
Well, beyond the property line, there's nothing, we can control that. Somebody could put something in front and that 5 feet is gone. Okay, now let's move on. Let's see. So PRG, we need I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to that. Minimum lot size. Minimum lot size for this zone R2 is 7,000 square feet or 3,500 square feet? Because there was mentioned in the table in the staff report, it's about 7,000 square feet.
Yes, that's correct. So the code requires 3,500 square feet of lot area for each dwelling unit.
For each dwelling unit?
That's correct.
Okay, so they're asking for a reduction of about 555 square foot per lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, yes, for
It's
two
about-
dwelling units,
Yeah,
7,000 square feet required.
Right, so that's about, I don't know,
The-
3,000.
40%, 41%, 40% reduction, right?
Right.
Okay. So wouldn't this give a special status to this lot, a special privilege to this lot because it's an adapted reuse? Because my concern here is that if we grant certain project like this, somebody who lives on a corner will say, hey, you know what, if you can do it, I can do it. So how do we tell other people to say, yeah, you can have 8 reductions, or no, you can't have 8 reductions in the standards? So I'm concerned about the precedent setting here.
Vice Chair Chu, I'm not actually sure if that's a question to staff or if that's a question to your fellow commissioners.
No, it's a
Ultimately-
question to staff.
Ultimately, it's level of discretion based on those 4 findings. Are there special circumstances that are happening on a given property that allow the Planning Commission to get to a place to make the special findings, if you will?
Okay.
Specifically, PRG is looking at a way of allowing residential development by allowing deviations from the code specifically related to density, to area, yards, height, and parking and fencing requirements in context with available services and the context of the neighborhood, if you will. So the question really becomes, what is this, what standards are being requested? Deviation is the first question. We provide that list of what those are. And in the context of services and utilities, can this property be served adequately? Staff would say the answer to that question is yes.
What about?
So the question about, is it consistent with the other densities and whatnot of the rest of the community? That's a question that staff believes the answer is yes. As we look at some of the properties that are surrounding this particular lot, in particular, and Jay Dabowski is pointing at some of them, there are several properties immediately adjacent to this project site that currently have multiple units. The property immediately to the east has 4 different units on it.
Under what circumstance were
Well-
those approved?
well-
Were they approved, did they become legal non-conforming because of the change in the zone? Or were they approved the way from built up, they were approved that way? Were they I'm sure those are legal non-conforming, correct? Okay, so
correct.
they became, staff did not approve that situation because of the change in the municipal code or zoning ordinance or zoning code or zoning, that became legal non-conforming, but the staff did not approve project the way that is, right?
Neither staff nor the Planning Commission or any other action would be the assumption. However, staff would look at it of what the context of the neighborhood is. And
I
there are-
understand.
Well, I'm going to interject here. I'm confused because on page 2 of my staff report, it doesn't say it says the zoning is multiple family, but it says existing land use. To the north is the bar, to the south is single-family dwelling, to the east, single-family dwellings, and then to the west, the rescue mission. So, I'm not seeing duplexes, fourplexes, anything there, unless there's a typo.
They're not, they are standalone single-family dwellings, but multiple standalone dwellings on the same lot.
Right, so these are not an established pattern that the city has done by default or by approval, right? This is done because there's changes in municipal code, requirement standard, or whatsoever.
I think we can collectively agree that there's a history of development out here that we're seeing in the aerial photo. As we look at what's out here, it's a relic of history.
Right, I understand the pattern of
We're gonna
development. I
continue
can
that.
see it. It's, and you made a good point here. And that's what I'm getting at is, just because an area have legal non-conforming structures, that doesn't mean we as city or staff should keep doing it. But let me move on to my next question, please. But thank you for answering that question. So they're asking for no off-street parking. That's 100% reduction in guest parking. Relief from landscaping from 10 foot to 1 foot and 10 inches, 80%. Why can't they just propose a single-family dwelling? Single, not a, you know what, maybe that's a question for the applicant to answer.
I was going to suggest that.
Presentation.
I'm sorry. They're not doing a presentation.
That's fine.
The applicant is not here for a presentation, however, they are here for questions.
Okay.
Okay, so, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing.
Interject while you're looking.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
What is this going to be?
Chair Frank, that's a vacant lot.
I know it's a vacant
At the time,
lot.
we have no proposal before us.
It's obviously a vacant lot.
And it has grass there too.
And it has grass, oh my. So, and this is zoned what? Same thing, R2? I mean, I'm just wondering, yeah, right now, go back to where that was. It's not on here. So, not enough parking here. They say it's easy parking here, maybe right now. I see a vacant lot over here. Who knows what their parking's going to be? And we don't know what this is going to be. So, you know, I kind of like to be a little prospective. And so I'm questioning when you're eliminating parking already, it's already putting the burden on the street.
Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and jump in there.
Commissioner Chua- Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead, I'm still.
I just wanted to jump in and
Sorry.
because you bring up a great point in regards to the parking. Earlier before this meeting, I drove by that site, and residents in the area are parking on the site. The spaces are available, which means there isn't enough parking on the street. You know, that creates a problem. And the chair brings up great points in regards to, you have, in this aerial view, you see two lots that are open. In the back side over there, I believe that's the next street over, Second, I believe it is, there's another empty lot over there. So once those start getting developed, it's just going to put more of an impact on street parking. Clearly, this project, in my opinion, was not thought through because...
Save it for deliberation.
Yeah.
Any more questions of staff? Because I do have public comment.
Yes.
Another question?
Yeah. Yes. On page 7 of the staff report, the four, I'm just going to go through one. Number 3 of the PRG's findings says building will substantially conform with plot plans and elevations submitted in support of the special use permit. And then the response is, although the existing building does not comply with all setback requirements, the building and proposed use does substantially conform, I would assume, not confirm, and should be approved under special use permit. Can somebody explain that, please? What that means? It conforms with what? Because you're asking for, the applicant's asking for 8 deviation, at least 40% reduction in those 8 standards. And how can somebody claim that it confirmed or it conforms with the established municipal code standards? Maybe the applicant can answer that question.
Well,
Or
Vice Chair Chu, if I could hop in there for
Yes,
for
please.
staff. So the text you're reading is the language that the applicant provided to all of you.
We know.
Staff's language is different than that in the resolution.
Right.
So for that same finding, staff, what we read, and just for everyone's convenience, it says, although the existing building does not comply with all setback requirements.
Can you please, what page and what section?
This is page 3 of 16 in the resolution.
3 of 16. Okay.
So. So I'll wait a moment here for us to flip through.
3 of 16. Okay. 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 3 of 16.
So it's the very bottom, section 1.3.3. So although the existing building does not comply with all setback requirements of the R2 zone, the project is for the adaptive reuse of an existing industrial building, and the proposed residential use substantially conforms to the purposes of the R2 zone. The project includes minor alterations to the facade of the building to create a more residential appearance. So the use is what we're finding to be consistent with the zone, and we're struggling with the notion of the existing building is there today.
Right.
Staff looking at this one, what do we do with that existing building? Do you let it be a vacant building? Do you turn it into something different? And that's the question that we're struggling with today.
But it's not just the use that we have to conform with. We have to conform with the municipal code standards as well.
Right.
Right.
I would also add that that's true. But the municipal code creates the PRG process, which allows the deviation from the standards. So even if under the PRG process, they're allowed to deviate if the commission agrees with the findings that are made in that. So complying with the code doesn't always mean complying with every aspect of the code, because the code allows the deviation process.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Okay. I don't know what slide. Show me where this bougainvillea is, where we're talking about bougainvillea. You know, you mentioned in the resolution, item 40. Show me on here where they're talking about putting that. Because I thought it said bougainvillea will not be placed, right? That's all taken out?
Chair Frank, that's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Anything else, commissioners? No? All right. We've been informed no applicant presentation. I'll move to public comment on item F1. Pat Brown.
For one, I like to see buildings that are no longer in use being renovated and something else going in that brings up the neighborhood, and instead of taking it down, it brings up the neighborhood and kind of stimulates the other neighbors around the area to maybe fix up and clean up and spruce up and whatever's, you know, so that it's better than it was before. That's what I like to see. In this particular situation, you got problems with variances with, and it seems like every time we do this and we don't abide by the regulations to begin with, we end up in big trouble later down the road. Either there's too many people in the given area and it's not built for it, it's not made for it, or there's some kind of a problem. There's a problem with parking. In some places we've said, well, you can only park on one side of the street, and you can't park on the other side of the street because the street isn't wide enough for all the trucks and everything that has to go through. There's numerous problems. I've seen that so many times. I've been here for coming on 26 years next month, and we just seem to go through this all the time. You know, it's different people, but it's the same problem. I drove up there. Okay, I have a map here. I live not very far from here. Okay. I live right in this area here.
Do you have a street name, Pat?
This is a 5 Points intersection. What we have here is railroad tracks. I hear the railroad, the train coming through in the middle of the night, and I'm way down here, and I hear it. And this is right next to the railroad tracks. I doubt that there's going to be anything put on that vacant land directly across the street because the railroad tracks are there. And then the Oxnard Boulevard on the other side of the railroad tracks. This is where the train has to come in. This isn't once in a while or every few days or whatever. This is all the time. This is incessant. What I would suggest for that piece of property is to make it a daycare center, either for seniors because they can't hear, so the noise wouldn't bother them, or children who are only there during the course of the day and have something like that. People are dropping off their kids, but they're not actually parking there. They're just dropping off and picking up. That's what I would suggest, because those people are going to be driven nuts by that train every single night. I don't know. Maybe they could have insulation like you would for a theater that's, got to have lots and lots of insulation. Maybe that would work. But as
But
is,
not this.
I don't see it.
I get it. We get it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Juan Romero. You didn't check the box, but do you want to speak?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juan Romero. Me and my wife, Delia, are the owners of the said property. We bought it back in 1995. I've been in the business of carpet installation since I got out of the service, the United States Army, since '79. I worked for a carpet store for 15 years before that, and I decided to go on my own. And I was raised in Malibu. My mom cleaned houses back then. And I got married in LA, but I've always loved out Ventura. So I moved my family. I got married, and we went to, my wife was from LA. And we stayed there around for 4 years, and I had to get out. I was raised in Malibu and Santa Monica. But my love was always Ventura. So I moved my family to here, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, actually. So I started my business. Within a year, I got this opportunity to buy that building. And by the grace of the Lord and you guys that you led me, gave me permission to have my carpet store there. Everything's fine, but now it's been around 7 years that when I renew my license, the city told me if I don't renew my license again, that they would never renew it anymore. Okay, so that was said back then, because they told me that they wanted that area into residential, not anymore, not for business. So now the time came, they told me that. So for 5 years I tried selling the building, because this is part of our retirement, this investment. I'm tired of installing, I'm 62 and this is our life. A lot of people have gave me thanks for being in the military. Now all I ask is our life future depends on you guys. What are we supposed to do with the building? Tear it down? What? I'm getting old. I don't want. I'm tired.
Commissioners, any questions? You're asking questions and you want an interchange, and we're able to do that with you as the applicant.
Yes.
So, any questions of the applicant?
I know this is odd, this situation, but what do I do?
Vice Chair Chua.
Sir, have you considered doing a single unit instead of 2 units?
The single unit in La Colonia would not work. It's too big and it won't work for our retirement.
Why is it too big, sir?
It's too big of a unit for that area. It would be chaos.
No, sir, it's not going to be too big, because if you
parking.
provide the proper parking.
To control parking, they built 6 houses next to it. That empty lot, you guys gave special permission on a 5 lot to build 6 houses there. The same way, they go in through the driveway, through the alley, to go in their garage.
The garage.
I'm asking the same thing, it's the same situation, to go into my duplex, future duplex, hopefully.
From what I remember, that I think is a low
You can see it, they redid the
Habitat for
whole,
Humanity?
it's the same setup.
That's why
as
they
the
had
6
that
houses they built on a 5 lot.
I understand that, sir. I think we've seen that back in February of last year.
That lot has
It's
five,
the
six
Habitat for
houses
Humanity.
on a 5 lot. You
Which-
guys gave special permission. The
Are you
one-
talking about this lot or
No,
this lot?
that lot.
This lot with the red dot?
It's the same yes.
Where
oh, no,
I
over
am?
here.
No.
Where, right
Here.
there. There's 6 houses on a 5,
Okay,
on
so
a
this
5
this
lot.
picture is inaccurate.
Exactly.
I see. That's
And the
bad.
same situation, they going through the
Have they
alley
already
just like
built,
us.
excuse me, have they
Yes.
already built these
Yes, ma'am.
homes? They've already built them?
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
That's the.
Okay,
that's
so
where
you're
the
saying
6
they come
houses.
in this alley here?
They go in through their garage, through
Yeah,
there.
but this alley, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're
The-
over here.
Yeah, the same alley, let's say it just
Yeah.
crosses the
Yeah,
street.
well, we-
It's the same situation to go into the parking,
Right.
the carport. we
And those are
proposed.
single-family homes?
Correct.
Yeah. How big are they?
I don't know the square footage, but
Okay.
there's 6 houses there
Mm-hmm.
on a 5-lot house, light
Uh-huh.
lots.
And those are low income, right?
Beg your pardon?
Are they low income?
I believe so.
I believe
That's
that
why
we
they
gra-
have the density bonus.
Right.
So you're not. So,
But see,
Anyway.
my situation is.
Sir, excuse me,
Yes.
just so you know,
Mhm.
I think I was involved in the vote on that.
Mhm.
I was against the density bonus and all
Yes.
that.
Yes, sir.
I was against that, just for the record, but our hands were tied by the state because of the requirements to provide certain deviation from standards. If the project provide at least, 10% of the units as low income, we have to vote yes on that. If not, we get sued. Now, there's a kind of difference between that and what you're proposing. You're proposing is a private project that does not involve low-income housing. We're not required by the state to approve any deviation. As we can provide deviation as we see fit. But I think there's 2 different situations. Now, the problem I'm having with this is that I see buildings being remodeled, taken down, being remodeled. You know, some of them they take down 3 walls, some of them they take down the whole thing, but for the purpose of, rebuilding it. So this, I don't see a lot of things that's going on here. It's just converting it to something that will maximize whatever is on the property with all those 8 deviation. Unfortunately, with that, I'm having a heartburn trying to, absorb all the deviations that is being requested here. It's kind of hard. I can't find, but anyways, that's fine, sir. I don't have any more questions. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Chavez.
Are you going to be selling these
No.
these duplex, or you're
Th-
renting
This
them
is,
out?
exactly, this is our retirement investment, yes.
So
because-
this is essentially income for you?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I've been running since we bought it, our small carpet store there.
And how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you plan on renting these units for?
Well, I thought anywhere from around 2,000 each, that would be.
Okay. When was the, when you stopped your carpet business, what year was that?
95. I'm on my own 94. I was
94.
renting before a unit over there in Richmond.
That's when you stopped operation?
No. That's when we started on my own in 94.
I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke.
We've been there since 95 when we bought the
When was
building.
the last operation date of your business in that site?
I'm still open.
Please.
I'm still
please.
open. I still have
So
a
you're
permit
still-
to
you're
operate,
still
yes.
operational
And
there.
that's why I planned all this.
Okay.
I'm still operational.
Okay, we understand.
Before you was a metal company, right?
Concrete stamping.
Okay,
That I
concrete.
believe.
All right.
I don't know, it was
so
empty when I
Thank
bought
you.
it.
You are going to have to be taking steps to mitigate whatever gunk and stuff that's been created through the 2 businesses in that building, right?
Concrete stamping, they weren't.
Environmental cleanup, it's called.
Thank you. Madam
There's
Chair.
there's nothing to clean up, it's just, I guess, concrete stamping, it was just, it was an office, I guess, and they supplied, they didn't actually,
He does.
that I know, did
Okay.
anything in there.
Thank you.
No. And carpet is what
Thank
there's.
you.
Thank you.
Let him,
Your, the fencing in the front, Why are you requesting it to be as tall as
No.
6 feet?
In the front, there's no, what he showed is just the
chain-
side,
the chain
7
link-
feet.
the chain
On the
link-
chain links on the side, it came with the building, 7 feet.
No,
Show 'em
the
right
staff
there.
report
That one.
says,
No. The staff report says that the white picket fence is being removed and replaced with the 6 feet fence.
in front of the property.
Yeah.
So why is that being done?
Of removing it, or?
No.
It
The
was
staff
never-
report says a 6-foot chain link fence is going to be installed at the front of the building.
Was there, that's not the front of the building, that's on the side, that's an existing fence
Okay.
that when I bought the
So
building was
you're
there.
saying that the staff report is wrong, that you are not removing that white fence?
Oh, the white fence all around it, yes.
You're removing it and replacing
You're talking about that it's
Hold on,
only
hold
3
on.
feet high.
You're removing it and replacing it with what?
With what, apparently they wanted shrubs on it, but I'll replace it with whatever you want if that's the issue.
So you're not replacing it with a fence?
What do they have on there, Jay? I mean, my
I'm asking you,
architect.
since you're the applicant, this is
I'm
your
open
investment.
I'm open to whatever you, on that behalf, whatever you
Okay,
want.
I'm done.
Well, what did
Chair.
you put
thank
on
you.
there?
The fence
Okay.
will be replaced.
It'll be
I don't,
replaced.
I don't have any further questions. Commissioner Furing?
Just one more question. Were any other considerations made about this other than a duplex?
Because you guys got me behind, I mean, I've been there for that many years.
Did you
and-
consider any other project besides the duplex is the question?
None.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Chair
Well,
Frank,
Anyone else?
Originally, I did wanted 3 units, but it was too much.
Right. Okay.
That's
Thank
what
you.
Doug had advised me. I just got to do something. The only numbers will come out as a
I
duplex.
understand. Okay, thank you so much. I have one additional speaker, David Kesterson. This is representative from the architect, Lauterbach and Associates.
Good evening.
Thank
My
you
name's
very much.
David Kesterson with Lauterbach and Associates. I'm one of the architects on the project to convert this building. And I did want to point out just a few things about the parking. We are removing an existing loading zone and replacing it with city-approved plates for the sidewalk, removing the existing trash enclosure, although we do have a place for the trash cans for both these units. We're also, we do have the parking backing into the alley, and but we have pulled it back to where most of the backup space is being complied with, so that it will not be encroaching on another piece of property back there. We are adding improvements, of course, windows to the building. I know a lot of conversation has been talked about it's not going to be a chain link fence. I think we had talked about it being an open metal wrought iron style fence on the yards.
That's right here.
Being a corner lot, there are spaces for guests on street that currently I don't see parking as a major problem on this particular parcel regarding the conversion of this commercial building. There's adequate adjacent space even across the street. I know that people illegally park on the parcel now
Oh, that's great.
that live in the neighborhood because the adjacent parcels that are to the east have 3 and sometimes even 4 units on those parcels. As architects, if we were to design this from the scratch, obviously we would not be doing a zero lot line building and having a project that looked like this in this neighborhood. But it is an existing building with a block wall on the property line. It does meet code. We aren't putting windows, of course, in that side. We are fenestrating for other windows. And the reason for a duplex is the size is about right for 2 units at somewhere between 1,400 and 1,600 square feet each. If we were to combine those 2 square footages and do a very large house with a lot of bedrooms, we would have to have a 3-car garage. We would.
No, sir, I kind of disagree with you.
Okay, this is public.
Do you have any other questions that I might be able to answer?
I don't.
Okay.
Anybody? No, no, thank you. Okay. Those are all the, thank you. Those are all the speaker cards that I have. Is there anyone else here who would like to comment on this project? Now is the time. Okay, I see no one else who wants to speak, so I'll close public comment on the item. We'll go into commission deliberation. Commissioners? Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the public comments. Thank you for the applicant speaking as well. I have a lot of concerns about this project. There's a lot of concerns. You made a comment to the Vice Chair that a single-family residence is too large. But you were trying to get 3 units on that site. So the parking is an issue for me because as the architect's representative just says that there's people illegally parking on the site, and it's because the other parcels don't have adequate parking spaces. So that has to tell you something, that there's not enough parking spaces in that area. This is a neighborhood, and I'm sure that you are quite aware of it since you started your business back in the late mid-90s, that this is a neighborhood that is very dense. This is a neighborhood that has a lot of cars. This is a neighborhood that has neighbors fighting with each other, blocking parking spaces so that they can be able to park their cars at night. This is also a community that would be considered very low income. So when I asked you about what do you propose your rent to be, and you said $2,000, I'm almost positive that it would be probably more like $2,200 a month for a unit rather than $2,000, seeing how the 1-bedroom average in Oxnard is about $1,700. This creates problems for me because in the diagrams that were shown by staff in regards to yard space, parking, and reducing so much, it's almost to the point of why not just start over? You also mentioned to Commissioner Furing that you did not look at any other options as to other than just going into a residential. But I believe it was also mentioned by staff that this is only a residential area, or it's been zoned as a residential area. I can appreciate your story, your background that you just shared with us, but unfortunately at this time I would not be able to support this project. Thank you.
Vice Chair Chua.
Thank you. Staff knows well that I'm very hard, or it gives me, I'm having a hard time justifying any reduction in the municipal code. And you can look at my records of voting for anything that has reduction in any code. I want to see a good justification. And I don't see that justification here whatsoever. And I do believe that we cannot find the finding, I cannot find the finding that's required for the PRG to be approved. Granting this permit will provide a special privilege on this property. No matter what intent is, if we intend to reuse the property, then, we have to comply with the municipal code. Reuse does not give the right of a property owner to just say, I don't want to follow the code. The code is written for a reason. As far as like I said, I mean, I have concern about the backup space. I have concern about parking. The architect mentioned something about street parking. It's not going to work here. I mean, we don't use street parking to comply with parking requirements. You got to have that parking. Got to have that guest parking if required. So under these 4 conditions, I can't find any of this. I cannot justify any of these PRG findings that's stated in the staff report or in the resolution. Especially particularly number 3 says building will substantially conform with plot plans. It doesn't because of just the requirements for reduction of at least 40% in those objective 12 standards. They're asking for reduction in standards in 8 out of the 12. And that's bad precedence. I don't think that the Planning Commission should approve this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Fearing?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm with my fellow commissioners on this. I haven't seen so many deviations before. There's got to be another use that's a better use for this property, and I can't support it.
Okay. Of course, I really appreciate the fact that this project was first attempted in 2017 and when your first application went in. And I appreciate that. And I honestly don't know how you got this far with these plans, with this project. We have new planning staff with Oxnard that I think may have viewed it differently at the very beginning and maybe guided you a little bit better. But for all the reasons stated by particularly Vice Chair Chua, I am in agreement that the special use permit to permit a PRG is, the criterion is just not met for me. I don't think the modifications or the mitigations that you're asking for or that are being asked for are warranted, because I do think there's another adaptive use that is viable and perhaps should be considered. So I agree, I can't support it either. Do I have a motion?
Chair,
I'm sorry?
It's unusual for staff to jump in at this stage of the game, but there is something that we want to at least rhetorically ask the commission or point out. So one of the things that we pointed out in our presentation, some of the questions that were asked of the Planning Commission is the single-family home something that's possible in this building? And theoretically, the answer would be yes. You can use the existing footprint to create a single-family home in this existing building as an adaptive reuse project. If one does that, they could also follow up and propose a junior accessory dwelling unit, which essentially means that they would utilize part of the existing building as an accessory dwelling unit, as an attached unit. That's something that we would regularly see from the outside as being a duplex.
But do you know that the ADU, the owner has to be occupying the main residence?
But that is not true
that's
anymore.
changing.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
So
He just signed that.
the governor just signed 18 different bills
just
into
signed
law. One of them expressly prohibits local governments from requiring owner occupancy as part of an ADU. So if the Planning Commission goes forward tonight and decides that we wish to deny the request before you, which you can do, the owner could come back and process a single-family home with an ADU and not have the conditions on the project that are proposed in the resolution, so to speak.
Well, that's subject to ministerial approval, right? So that'd be on you.
So there's a discussion to be had there. It's partially a rhetorical question to all of you. It's partially very real to the applicant standing behind
Well,
us tonight.
here's the thing about that. If you wanted us to consider that, it should have been in here. We have commissioners here who aren't lawyers, who aren't planners. I'm a lawyer, he's a planner, he's not, and he's not. Okay, so when you want us to consider an option for discussion, you should have put it in here. So, based on what I'm looking at, I mean, yes, I can talk to you about AB, I forget the number, but I read it this afternoon. Yeah, all of those requirements are coming off the table. And, if he wants to do that, he can do that. That's going to be on you. But based on what I have, I can't vote for this.
Well, and let me just be clear, that wouldn't be appropriate for us because, number one, the governor just signed the legislation.
Just signed it.
So it wasn't an option that we had available to the applicant. So I think it's really what we're trying to do is just provide context, but we expect the commission to proceed with your action. Just want you to know that if you do, the project in some capacity will go forward or could go forward in this other way. That's all. It's an information item for
I'd rather have the governor wreck our community than we ourselves wreck it. So,
I mean, that's
I mean, it's on his hands. It's not ours. I mean, they tied our hands. I mean, but knowing this, I can't really vote for it.
I can't either.
So, Madam Chair, I will make a motion of denial, but I'm assuming it's the same thing like the 7-Eleven, that we have to continue this public hearing?
No, we don't continue it. Well, yeah.
Correct?
Okay.
Yeah. Continue the public hearing for a resolution of denial for a future date.
Based on the...
Based off of the commissioner's comments.
Okay, do I have a second?
We ask you to continue to November 21st, and we'll bring that resolution back then.
So.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, I have motion by Chavez, second by Fearing. Roll call.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes to deny.
Commissioner Fearing,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chua,
Yes.
Chair Frank.
Yes.
Motion passes for denial.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to any study session reports. We haven't had a study session, so I don't think we'll have a report. Okay, Planning Commission business. Commissioners, any business? I would like to report that not this last weekend, but the weekend before, there was a huge wedding that was held in Oxnard Shores on the beach with no permit, alcohol on the beach, amplified music on the beach, catering services on the beach, valet parking on Mandalay Beach Road, noise, trash, unpermitted, no permits, and it was very disrupting to my neighborhood. No. At least they said they owned it, but I don't want to get into the personal. I'm just saying these events do occur, they're still occurring, and it's very disruptive to a residential neighborhood. No other business. Community development staff updates.
Excuse me, I have a couple, and then Scott might have some addition. The first one is, I'm going to hand this flyer out to the commission. We're hosting an event on Wednesday, November 13th at 6:30 called The Disruption of Autonomous Cars, Traffic, and Parking, discussing public policy choices in the new era of mobility. We have Jessica Robinson from the Michigan Mobility Institute here. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, sort of a TED Talk on mobility and the future of mobility. So I'll provide a flyer to each of you. You're welcome and encouraged to participate in this. And if it's helpful, we can email you the electronic version.
Where's it going to be?
Excuse me?
Where is it going to be?
At Oxnard College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so lots of room and capacity, but you do have to register and RSVP if you'd like to attend. Okay. I would strongly encourage you to do so. A couple updates. We have identified a new date for Fisherman's Wharf. You heard that item a couple months ago. It was scheduled for council on October 7th. The applicant asked for a continuance. They've now asked for it to be back on the calendar. So we've identified a special city council meeting on November 7th. That's normally when you would meet. We're canceling your meeting and replacing it with a council special meeting on Fisherman's Wharf. So that's coming up. Also, let you know that the short-term vacation rental item that you recommended to the city council subcommittee, the committee heard your recommendations and largely supported many of the commission's recommendations. That is scheduled for full council consideration on November 5th. And you should hopefully be pleased that many of the things the commission suggested are now in the recommended action to the city council.
And are now obfuscated by the Ninth Circuit Santa Monica case.
We will be talking about that as well when we go to city council. And I think that's what I had. Scott might have a couple others.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. So as we just shared with you, the governor and the legislature has been busy. 2019 continues to be a very busy year for them. There's 18 additional housing bills that have been signed into law now. There's a range of things that those bills are dealing with. It's everything from funding sources to streamlining to ADU regulations to density bonuses. You name it, it's a number of different items. We are in the process of absorbing those things, and we will be planning to come forward at some point in time to update our regulations relative to all those new changes that are out there. So, but it's continuing that same trend line that we've been seeing for the last 3 years, essentially with consistent changes and less and less local control about what could happen relative to housing.
Yeah, but there was one thing that was very positive in there, and it said that ADUs, even though the primary owner doesn't have to be there anymore, they cannot be used for short-term rentals.
That was one of the items that...
Single sentence provision.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
Okay. There's a lot that's out there, but that is one of the sentences in those documents.
It definitely needs to be brought up to city council when, people are building these duplexes and they think they're going to rent them short-term rental. And we've got all of that happening down in the shores where the single levels are closed off. They have lockouts there and people are renting their housing out, and, they can't do it if they're having it converted. I know it's not on the books as an ADU in the shores yet, but
so
I'd almost welcome that so that it couldn't be STRs. Make them ADUs.
So what are we doing about all these legislators who don't know crap about planning? I mean, is the League of California Cities doing it? I mean, since they live in those nice houses and we all live in the real houses, I mean, they don't give a, about all these laws that they're making. Could somebody just wake them up, slap them around, and tell them that they're being stupid?
Okay, we're still on TV.
I'm sorry.
So I'll move ahead with a couple of other items.
And it's Chua for governor in 2022.
So just
it's a joke.
A few nights ago, the City Council did meet and they had their second reading on the general plan consistency zone changes. That was adopted. So as of November 14th, all those parcels that you were looking at, the approximately 4,700 parcels, will officially have their zone change. So our maps are being updated accordingly to show that. And thank you all for your part for that effort. In addition, October 22nd, we're anticipating for the Housing and Economic Development Committee of the Council to consider the retail cannabis regulations. So that's coming up. And on October 29th at the special meeting of the City Council to go over the RENA allocations. So all sorts of different planning activities happening at your level as well as with the council.
I will add to that. So on October 29th, our plan is to do a housing kind of overview to the council, including the legislation that was adopted in 2017, much of which we've already adjusted our codes to reflect, and the series of bills that the governor signed just a week or so ago, as well as the ongoing housing needs assessment, regional housing needs assessment process to figure out what our future housing needs are, and asking council to give us some preliminary feedback on their thoughts, because we're about to start a housing element update in the early part of 2020. And that will be about an 18-month process beginning in the beginning part of next year.
Director Lambert, since our meeting's being canceled on November 7th, and we had that El Rio project continue to November 7th, when is that project coming back to us?
That's a great segue, because that was the next announcement I was going to give to you.
Boom.
Yes, November 7th is canceled. On that cancellation notice, we're going to identify the Rio Urbana project as being continued to the next meeting, which is November 21st.
Oh.
So it's shifting just a single meeting. Not not pulling in a special meeting of the Planning Commission. We're just simply going to roll it into your next regular meeting. On the 21st, there's at least 2 other items that we know about, the one you just continued tonight and the follow-up action for that. And the Public Works Department has an integrated water master plan that's going to be coming before all of you as well. So those are the things that we're looking at in the future.
No
And
master chef to teach us how to make turkey gravy?
not yet, but we could still put that on the calendar
Oh, yeah.
if,
I mean,
if so desired
come
by the
on.
chair. So we'll be in contact with your chair about that.
No, I'll do something.
And with that, staff thanks all of you for your volunteerism and being here with us and continuing the conversation with us. So thank you.
Oh, sweet. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, staff.
We stand adjourned.